guys, it's Joanna from Nesting Story, and today I wanted to share a really personal story with you, and one of the hardest things I've been through, but it's a question that pops up often, and although I've answered it here and there in shorter videos or in a Q&A, I've never really gone into detail about this story. So today I'm going to share that story with you. So I get asked a lot, what is this scar here on my neck? I had a complete thyroidectomy, but let's go back to way back to the end of high school when everything started. So when we first started to explore or figure out that something was off with me, I think I was around 17 or 18, and I was kind of falling in and out of depression, and yet I was very hyper, and I couldn't focus my attention very well, but I was just very unsettled. So my mom is a lot like how I am, and she's like, there's a problem, we're gonna get to the bottom of it. So both my parents really started to help me try to figure out what was going on. So because of the fact that I was going in and out of depression and experiencing a lot of anxiety, my parents sent me to a therapist, and although it was great and there were some helpful things, she ended up diagnosing me with ADHD. And to this day, I still wonder, maybe I think everyone lands on the spectrum, and maybe I lean more that way. But something in my mom's gut, she just was like, I just don't feel like that's the full answer to this picture. So we kept exploring what was going on. While this was all going on, I was also dating my now husband, Mike. We started dating when he was 17, I was 18, and although we hadn't been dating for a really long time, we were very serious. So he was part of the picture during this whole time when I was going through all of this. So then I went and left to go work at a summer camp, and I felt like just things were not right that whole summer. I felt off. I had a lot of stomach pain, like a lot of stomach pain. So I started to get a ton of tests done. I had an endoscopy and colonoscopy and barium swallow and everything. And during that time, they thought maybe I had some IBS. But my mom still just didn't feel right about these, that we hadn't got to the bottom of this. And so she eventually actually switched me to a woman doctor to see if there'd be any kind of insight. And the first thing she said to me was, I want to check your thyroid. No one had checked my thyroid. In fact, I think that was the first time I had ever even heard of what a thyroid is. And if you don't know what a thyroid is, it's a butterfly-shaped organ. Actually, it's lower down here. That's right here. And it kind of controls your hormone levels, and it has a lot to do with everything from energy levels to emotional up and downs. It can even, if it's off, it can make your nails brittle and your hair kind of fall out. So it really is kind of this controls of your body in terms of chemicals and hormones. So I had never heard of it, but I thought, okay, let's go get it tested. Well, the results came back and my thyroid was off the charts hyperactive. So hyperactive means it was revving. If you're underactive, you could be really tired, but the hyperactiveness really explained why I was having these just really couldn't concentrate, and possibly even the stomach pains, because I've actually done some research, and when it's very hyperactive, your whole body is revving, and I think that was really causing my body to just rev, crash, and be go, crash. So my doctor said, look, we're gonna put you on medication to level it all out, and as long as there's no nodule or tumor on it, then you're fine. She said, but let's just book an ultrasound just in case. So leading up to that ultrasound, I woke up one morning and I had a huge, what they would call a goiter, but like a huge mass, a big tumor on my neck. I looked in the mirror and I freaked out, and so we went to see, I believe it was an endocrinologist right away. So he actually drained it with a really big needle and was able to take some liquid out, but then the next day it came back again. And I believe they said something in there was like hemorrhaging. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but it just kept coming back. They couldn't seem to keep it down. So then came the day of my ultrasound. So my mom came and Mike came, and here is this I think he was 18 or 19 at the time, but so committed, and just came and sat in the waiting room with my mom. And I look back at this ultrasound, and I think that was the most scared I've ever felt in my life, or one of the closest. I have this freakish way that when there's a big emergency, or there's even a tragedy or something like that, I have this weird way of like being able to disassociate myself and really jump into action. For example, when Mike and I used to have a puppy and he'd have these grand mal seizures, I was the one that was able to just switch into let's deal with what we need to deal with mode, and almost like the way a triage nurse would be able to be. But this moment for me was absolutely terrifying. So I'm laying on the bed in the examining room. I don't have any family with me. And they're doing the ultrasound on my neck. And I knew that they were trying to find out if it was cancerous or not. I think if it was hard or not hard was the way they would determine that. And I see this glowing red and orange ball on the screen, and I could tell it wasn't good. And the ultrasound technician was very tight-lipped. They couldn't say a lot. But I could see they kept leaving the room and coming back. And, you know, I've had twins now, so I've had that experience before where it's just like something's not quite what they were looking for. So I knew it wasn't good news. And I remember, so this is the fear, is I was leaving and I was all done and I was walking into the waiting room and Mike and my mom jumped up and they said, so... And I remember it was when you describe just like slow motion, just I could barely even get the words out of what I saw. And I was like, this is not good. There's something just not good. So it was decided after that I would have a complete thyroidectomy. Now, they don't often do complete thyroidectomies. It was on one side, but they, because of my age, they're really concerned it would come back and it'd be cancerous. And actually, I have a very strong history of thyroid issues and cancer in my family, especially in the women's side. So they just didn't want to take any chances, just to remove the whole thing. So when I was seeing my surgeon before my surgery, he reassured me that my scar would be about like a crease in my thumb. So I was not worried about that. And I just wanted to get it done. And so I had my surgery. During my surgery, they took out, I think it was there was three parathyroid glands. So you have your thyroid and then you have like 4 parathyroid glands, I believe, and they control your calcium levels. So 2 they took out on purpose because they knew it was just intertwined, and 1 they actually they took out by accident or because it was so entwined. They said they went in there to get my thyroid and everything was just so angry and had spread and whatever was going on, that they needed to take the whole thing, and it was good that I got it out. So I had my thyroid out, I had the surgery, I came out of surgery, still groggy, they're wheeling me out. My mom is with me because she was in recovery when I came out of the anesthetic, and they're wheeling me out of the elevator. And again, I have such a clear memory of this. And there is Mike standing there with a bouquet of daisies, because I always loved daisies and he would always buy me daisies. This 19-year-old teenager standing there, and my mom turns to me and goes, he's been waiting the whole time. And he was standing there as the doors open from the elevator, and I'm laying there and I'm seeing this with the flowers. And so he came in, he was by my side, I think for like the 3 days I was in the hospital, helping change my draining tube, because I actually do have a second scar, which is around here, that was from my draining tube that would drain the fluid. He was there to feed me strawberries. He was there when I had the staples. So I had, I think, stitches inside and staples outside when I had those removed, and it was an awful situation. He was also there when I had my allergic, so was the rest of my family, but Mike was just there. And I had a really bad allergic reaction to codeine with the Tylenol 3s they're giving me. I all of a sudden went red and swelled up. I'm actually very sensitive to medication. And it's believed that because of that, in a combination with my type of skin here, this is why I have such a big, thick scar. And so I had this allergic reaction. They changed my medication. And I remember at one point with my mom there, and they were trying to take out my staples and just breaking down, like just sobbing, and it was so painful and it was just torture, and I was just done. So that was my whole hospital experience. I got out of the hospital, and pretty soon after, it was Mike's birthday, and I took him out to the zoo, and I remember thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done this. Like, I was recovering from surgery and I just didn't feel well, but I just pushed through because he had been there for me, and I just wanted to do something for him. And so since then, I have to take thyroid medication every day. I always kind of half joke with people, you know, if I was on a stranded island, I wouldn't survive because I need to have my thyroid medication. If I didn't have it, my levels would just drop off, and then apparently I'd go crazy and then not survive. But it didn't really impact me too much during my pregnancies. I think my medication levels were tweaked a little bit, and I've never really had a lot of fluctuation with it. One thing I've wondered, and I think there's a bit of like a mixed understanding of this, is if it ever impacted when I was breastfeeding my kids. I always had very low supply, and I've always wondered if that could have contributed. I've been told it can. I'm a little skeptical, but it possibly can. So to this day, I find, I think that I have so much energy in the morning because I take my thyroid pill, and then by the end of the day, I'm wearing out. And I always have felt like ever since I had my thyroid out, I feel like everyone else starts their day with 100% energy, and I start my day with about 80 or 90%. And I've learned that that's just how I'm built, and I need to just rest when I need to rest, and I can go when I need to go. But I've never quite been able to just keep going like other people do. I also would say though that since I had my thyroid out and everything had leveled off, it's been much easier to take more control of my weight and control how much I was eating, because I think I was revving so much that I was just so hungry all the time. So that's been a really positive thing. So that is the story behind my scar. And also I can, you can see Mike and I have gone so far back, and we had been through actually quite a few hard things then, but at our wedding, I talked about, during my speech, everyone talks about beautiful love and these versions of love that are so beautiful. And I said, but then I feel like the most important love that Mike and I have experienced is ugly love, because he's been there. He was there during this awful, ugly time for me. Not that I felt ugly, but just he was in the trenches with me, and he stuck around, and he was completely there for me. And that for us was very good for our relationship, to go through that. So I have since seen a couple plastic surgeons about possibly getting it revised, my scar revised, and I've been advised multiple times that due to the type of skin I have here and the type of scarring I've had, there's a 50-50 chance it would go right back like that. But if we were to try to do anything, that year of healing, it would look much worse. So I've made the decision to just leave my scar. It's there. I forget about it about 95% of the time. I don't even remember it. And it's very interesting, because the only time it bugs me is when adults make comments, not when kids make comments. And I'll tell you why. It's not always been the experience, but scarily enough, it's most of the experience I have. Kids will ask and they'll say, what happened to your neck? I will tell them happily. I have had many adults, parents, men, women, many of them say, whoa, what happened to your neck? And I'll explain. I'll say, oh, I thought you tried to kill yourself, or I thought you were attacked. But they'll just, and I've had worse comments. There's something about that kind of comment to me that really has bothered me. I'm very happy to explain why I have a scar, but I think someone, I don't know, that's the only time it's bugged me. But I go day to day and forget about it. I honestly get dressed and forget about it, and I go through my day and I forget about it. So if you have a scar, if you have anything like that, it's part of who you are. I feel like it's, I may go get spray tans and do some other stuff, that I want to do because I'm in charge of my own body. But my scar is something that it's like a roadmap to show where I've been, and I've accepted it, I've embraced it, and it's part of who I am. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know down below, do you have a scar? Do you have something that's physical, that's very obvious that you live with? And how do you feel about that? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel okay to share your story? I'd love to hear that. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram. I do Insta stories every day, so I'd love to see you there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.